So we're still kind of on the middle third of the race. The last one we talked about the 24 and mostly that strategy, but I did touch on, you know, I view that middle third as a whole portion. The 24 is usually the beginning of that middle third. The last part of that middle third is leaving your 24, probably let's say up to Caltag or Nolado, or at least taking your mandatory 8-hour rest on the Yukon River. So in this middle portion of the race, it's really about positioning. So there's two competing factors here. One is I want to have a dog team that can race up the coast, race the final third of the race aggressively. So the first trump card here is going to be a team that is strong and I feel confident racing for the final third of the race, even if I have a 6-hour deficit to my competition. Let's say Ryan, Pete, Aaron, or any of the other mushers in this race, if they're 6 hours ahead of me in Caltag, I want to have a team that can run them down. So that's the most important thing, is having that strong, healthy team. We usually finish that middle third with our mandatory 8. So again, it's kind of like the 24. We start with thinking, what does 8 hours fix? And then reverse engineer that. Where do I maximize this team's position on the trail, but still have them fully recovered from that 8-hour break? The Yukon's generally pretty flat. In fact, it's always flat. It's not always easy though. If you get some wind, you get some drifted snow, the trail not necessarily packed down great. Generally on the northern route, the river's a lot better than the southern route, but that's not always the case. So we're gonna try to get through this section of the race with, again, a team we can really race on the final third, but position is important. So you need to be aware of the other mushers. There's some mushers, I don't mind if they're ahead of me. There's mushers that, okay, I'm fine with them being 6 hours ahead, because I know I have a faster team. I know I have a team that can make more plays at the end of the race than they can. There's other teams that I actually want to be ahead of them on the race if they tend to be faster than me. And if I have a few hour lead on them going into that final third, I can use that to force them to abandon their speed. And I've used that many times, actually racing primarily my dad is one of the mushers that has a really fast closing team, and I've had to be a few hours ahead of him. So positioning is really what we're focused on here, and that doesn't necessarily mean to be in first. Now, let's say I am in first, going into Caltag, let's say. It's the last place that you can take your mandatory 8 along the Yukon River. So if I am in first, or likely to be in first when I arrive there, I may actually intentionally give up some of that lead, reinvest that into rest. If I have a team that I feel like is slower than me, I might back off until they catch up with me, because I'm stockpiling rest. So that way I come out of my mandatory 8 with a really, really strong team. I'm always going to value speed over a lead. So by taking more rest, you're investing in speed, but you're giving up a lead. Inversely, by letting your team run a little bit faster or shortening those rests, you're going to give up speed and trade for that lead or that, you know, farther position down the trail. So the middle third is really about positioning, and it's about positioning your team to be ready to launch for that final 300 miles. This is where the race happens, at that end section. And it's about having a good enough position where you haven't inadvertently let somebody 12 hours ahead of you. Well, yeah, great, you have an awesome dog team, but you're so far out of it, you're not going to catch them. That's what the middle third is about.